This is Fort Collins, Colorado. Population just about 2,000 shy of 140,000. And this is Laramie, Wyoming. Population just over 25,000. The crown jewel in each of these cities is their prosperous universities, Colorado State University and the University of Wyoming. The schools are separated by 65 miles of road along Highway 287, and of course a state border. It's not much, but then again, it's just enough to create one of college football's most storied rivalries. You may know it as the Border War. While the landscape and demeanor of each town is different, Laramie and Fort Collins are linked together by 65 miles of road and each town's pride in their football team.
Most rivalries are intrastate, and this one, of course, is across the state line, and that's why it's referred to as the border war.
I think this rivalry rivals any in the country. It's just been going on so long. These two schools have been playing each other since 1899. Well over 100 times. They've played each other every year since World War II.
You look at Wyoming, and that's our classic rivalry. They're in our conference. We've played in the same conference since, I think it's 1905. So that's what makes the Wyoming-Colorado State rivalry so good, is it's a classic rivalry.
It doesn't matter what the records are at the end of the season. That's going to be a tough game. I mean, we could have lose every single game. They could win every single game. It's going to be a tough game.
Just the distance between CSU and Wyoming, you know, you can get a lot of different things, and just seeing us out there clashing for the community, it just takes you back to high school, like neighborhood rivalry.
We do have respect for each other, but on the other hand, when the first kickoff, when that ball goes up in the air, they get after it.
It's always going to be a smash mouth game. I mean, it always has been, and it'll never change. I don't ever see it, not being one of those games where you know both teams are coming into that game, fighting and swinging and doing whatever they have to do to win.
But you just knew it meant a lot to a lot of people. There was a different overall atmosphere during that week than any other week.
It has a lot of family ties involved in it, a lot of coaching ties. We've had coaches coach at both schools.
I've been on both sides. Obviously, I'm a Ram at heart, but they're passionate too. I mean, it's passion on both sides. Nobody likes each other this week, and a lot of those people don't like each other any day of the year.
There's signs that go up from the first rivalry. They stretch all the way down the hall from, the scores of them all the way. I mean, they do big things for this week. So the players, if they have to let you know, then you're probably in the wrong place.
The first game between Wyoming and what was then known as the Agricultural College of Colorado took place back in 1899. Wyoming had invited their neighbors to the south to a friendly contest in Laramie. And while the details are a bit blurry, what we do know is the game ended with a Wyoming forfeit.
Well, Wyoming lines up on the ball with the Aggies off the field, and they line up on the ball and they score a touchdown. Nobody's there. And there's this big fight in the student newspapers about, why did you guys do this? You guys are, you're a classless school. And this is 1899, it's the Victorian era, so you're talking about, usually people are kind of nice to one another back then.
Little did the fans in attendance realize, but that game would set the tone for the next 90 years.
I know that there's the Dallas Cowboys, it's the Wyoming Cowboys, but I think if I had to take my pick, I would probably not wear the Wyoming colors.
It was one of the rivalries. As soon as you come to Colorado State, they say, this is who you like and this is who you don't like. And they put Wyoming on there as a team you do not like. So once they did that, I didn't like Wyoming to now.
It's not just within athletics. You look at the institutions. CSU's got a ag school, vet program. Wyoming's got an ag school, very good in energy and engineering and the likes. And so there's a lot of similarities between the two institutions besides being 60 miles apart. So I have respect, but I want to beat them in everything we do, every single time we play.
From 1903 to 1965, both teams had their share of success. The Aggies owned the first 2 decades, while the Cowboys took control after World War II. One team would prevent another from winning a championship, while the other ruined their opponent's season. back and forth they went, and the rivalry was kind of going through the motions. Sometimes it takes a special game to up the ante. Prior to the 1966 game, Wyoming was in the midst of a 10-game win streak against their foes from the South. And if one school wasn't competitive, well, it isn't much of a rivalry, is it? The school now known as Colorado State University was starting to get desperate.
All I heard about when I first came to Purdue as an assistant for Paul Roach was the infamous bounce pass.
You go down to Fort Collins to College Avenue, and CSU is horrid. They're struggling, stumbling around, they're not winning any games. Wyoming is great.
Nobody ever gave the CSU Rams a chance to beat the Cowboys in 1966.
And they have a trick play.
CSU is on their, I want to say like they're in their own territory, third quarter, late in the third quarter, they try this play. It's called the Cowboy Special.
The play turns out to be like a pass, a lateral, that is incomplete.
Well, everybody thinks that the play is dead. I mean, Jackson even played it up by saying, you know, to the quarterback, Bob Wolf, Bobby, can't you throw the ball right?
Wyoming basically quit playing.
You know, so everybody's pulling up on the play. Jackson then throws the ball down the field to Tom Pack, and Pack scores a touchdown.
You know, we're sitting there, wow. But it gave them enough momentum, and they won the game 12-10 thanks to that play.
It did not win the game itself. The Cowboy Special was in the third quarter. It was in the fourth quarter when CSU was at a 4th and 11 that Mike Lute decided to go for it, and Larry Jackson makes a great catch and gets the first down. It helps us drive down the field so that Al Levan can kick the game-winning field goal.
That was the only loss of the season for a Wyoming team that year.
Well, my dad actually played at CSU and was part of the bounce pass game. So I've heard about this rivalry for a long, long time.
You know, to the old guard, that's still one of the greatest plays, whether you're a CSU fan or one of the worst plays if you're a Wyoming fan in memory.
Yeah, the infamous bounce pass, and that's what I mean. You know, as you play here and coach here, you just learn about those legendary plays, and everybody's got a story, and it's just, I guess the lore is just tremendous.
Well, this was about 30 years later, and the people from Wyoming still haven't forgiven them. They still think it was an illegal trick play.
In the late 1960s, the series between Wyoming and Colorado State had all the makings of a good college football rivalry. The schools were close, the fans were emotional, games were competitive. All that was lacking was a tangible symbol of victory. When we return, a historic game gets its icon. The story of the Bronze Boot is next. You're watching Rivalries, Colorado State versus Wyoming.
Well, the Bronze Boot is, I think, one of the more unique trophies in college football. It's, and I'll tell you, it's something that these two schools want to have in their trophy case.
I think it originated in 1968.
Major Vic Fernandez, who was one of the leaders of the ROTC unit here at CSU, he's a graduate student and one of the people in charge. He came up with the idea of using a combat-worn boot that was actually served in combat, that could be bronzed and used as a traveling trophy.
The boot selected belonged to Captain Dan Romero, a CSU student who had just returned from a tour of duty in Vietnam. And with that, a traveling trophy was born.
I believe it's probably one of the greatest of all rivalry trophies because of the fact it was worn in war and defending freedom.
I think that's the thing. You know, you would think, what in the world does a boot have to do with it? But I think the story behind it, I think it has become a great symbol of this rivalry.
It's a huge deal for us because a CSU man wore that boot in war. You know, it's our boot. So that's the way that we think of it, and that's the way we talk about it that week. It's our boot. It's not the boot, it's our boot.
It has a special meaning to us, particularly with our relationship with the United States Special Forces, and so it's big, and we like to do things to honor those guys, and we have one of those ROTC guys on our football team.
Each school's ROTC programs play a prominent role in one of the rivalry's special moments each year. At 1 o'clock on Friday of Boot Week, ROTC members from each school marched to the state border in a ceremonial exchange of the game ball.
We meet at the border with the boot, and whoever is hosting the game is at the border. The other team brings the game ball to the border, gives it to the detachment of the other team, and they run it to the stadium.
It's the tradition and pageantry of two ROTC groups getting together. They want to be at their best, so their respect for the military on that day is second to none. How they march, how they present the colors, and how proud they are to be Wyoming ROTC guys and CSU ROTC people.
And naturally, even this simple gesture of sportsmanship has been taken to the extreme.
I know a couple years ago, CSU came in a Blackhawk and trumped us big time because we just drove.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, you talk about, you know, I guess those things are, you know, meant to get in and out of combat, you know, in short order. And, you know, the altitudes we reached and then how we kind of hugged the terrain and flew around, that was quite an experience.
I remember Coach was like a little kid. He said, "I'm going to ride the Blackhawk." I said, "Get out of here." So when he said Blackhawk, I thought it was I thought it was kind of a car or something he was talking about.
And it wasn't just one helicopter. It was like we were storming in. It was something out of Apocalypse Now, and you know, it was quite a day.
The Pokes would dominate the first 6 years of the Bronze Boot rivalry. But in the mid-70s, CSU head coach Sark Arslanian set out to change that. After victories in 74, 75, and 76, Arslanian had CSU competing with Wyoming for the first time in 20 years. But he wanted more.
The Rams were kind of down in 78. They were trying to find their way. Sark Arslanian, head coach, decided to, as he told me, he said, I wanted to take a page from Paul Bear Bryant and do something different for the team.
It was very weird because we went out and had our pregame on the field, and did our stretching, did everything, early outs, all that stuff, and no Rams.
Everybody's saying, where are the Rams? Where are the Rams? Getting close to the game.
Cowboys are warming up, captains are out in midfield. There's no sign of CSU anywhere, no sign of the team on the field. And all of a sudden they come out from up above and they run down through the seating, through the student section.
It doesn't end there. They go all the way out to midfield because Sark Arslanian decided that every player on his team was the team captain.
One of our guys who I would describe as a brawler, he was a linebacker, one of our very good players. He didn't like that, and so he started pushing, and that's the brawl ensued.
Although there's many stories to say who threw the first punch, pretty much it was a melee at midfield between the players.
Since that time, which was late 70s, it's been pretty darn clean.
Clean, but just as emotional. You've heard the old saying, to the victors go the spoils? Well, when you win the bronze boot, you take the bronze boot no matter where it is.
It's very important to Wyoming and Colorado State to hold on to that bronze boot. When they get it at the end of the games, each one of these big games between these two schools, the other team rushes across the field if the other team has it, and it's quite a scene at the end of the game, and they hold it up. It's become a symbol of this rivalry.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the smartest thing to do. Most rivalries I've been with, it's in a neutral spot and presented to the team afterwards.
It's amazing when you're the team doing it and you don't really recognize what you're doing to the other team. You know, running through their bench to go get the trophy is, you know, when you're on the other side of that and you see them come through your bench, I mean, it pisses you off.
All you can do is watch. I mean, it's sportsmanship type thing. You know, you don't want to go over there fighting for it or anything like that. But it's one of those moments that you're like, wow, I don't want to feel like this again.
No, you just take it and you just leave. I remember they used to scream and cuss at us when we would be stretching. That's all right. As soon as the game's over, we're going to take that size 12 Browns boot and get up out of Dodge and go back to Fort Collins where it belongs.
I worry about confrontation or somebody saying something and we have a melee on the sideline. Fortunately, both programs understand, hey, the boot's on the sideline of the program that has it. When they lose the game, get away from it.
And when you get it, you immediately go down to the trophy engraving place and get the score put on it. And then you can't wait to play CSU in basketball because you can bring the trophy out at the Wyoming home game, Wyoming CSU basketball game. And I brought it out to half court, and the place went nuts.
All we saw for that next 3 weeks, and you know, they were getting ready, supposedly getting ready for a bowl game. Every picture in the paper was Coach Glenn on a horse in some small town in Wyoming with a boot. As you know, when we got the boot the last couple of years, we just put that thing in trophy case, we made a little talk, and we go. So Coach Glenn took that baby, paraded it around the state. He went to, I think every person in the state of Wyoming saw that boot.
You know, back when Fum was alive, having him come in the locker room and sing that fight song, touching that gold boot. And that image of him singing, touching that gold boot will never leave my mind.
It's pretty special. I mean, it really is. And, you know, I think last year was pretty exciting for me to see, you know, as a player, you appreciate it, but as you grow older, I think you appreciate things even more. And seeing the excitement and the passion in our players' eyes and their expressions when they went over to get that trophy was unbelievable.
For me, it means just, you know, owning that boot means that we beat CSU, and there's no greater feeling in football. When I think about if there's anything that I would give, is to have a chance to hold that boot one more time, you know, win a game against them. And that's probably my fondest memories about college football.
When Rivalries returns, the Pokes go on a history-making drive.
Here they come, a quick hitter to Montgomery. Montgomery tries to get outside. Montgomery across the 30, down to the 32-yard line.
And the boot joins Generation X. You're watching Rivalries, Colorado State versus Wyoming. Heading into the 2010 game, the Bronze Boot Series has been split right down the middle. Both Wyoming and CSU holding on to 21 victories. And along the way, fans have been treated to some truly remarkable moments. Most notably, the 1996 game.
You know, just the atmosphere surrounding that game. It was a sellout that day.
It snowed like crazy. There was snow all over the field, snow all over the stands.
They were cleaning, trying to get the field clean when we showed up.
And the game itself was just bang them up. I mean, it was just hard-nosed, just racking each other's brains. I mean, it was a hard-fought game.
When the teams took to the field on November 16th, Sonny Lubbock's Rams were riding a 3-game win streak over Wyoming and were picked by many to make it 4 in a row, despite the fact that the Cowboys were ranked 23rd in the nation.
We had to win to get to the championship game. If they won, they had a chance to go to the championship game.
Colorado State fell behind early, but scored 24 unanswered points, and with 8:05 left in the fourth quarter, led 24-19. An expertly placed Matt McDougall punt pinned the Pokes back at the 4-yard line, and then history took over.
It looked like Wyoming was down and out.
The field was muddy and it was cold, it was wet.
Josh Walwork, who had a flair for the dramatic, and I'm not saying he wasn't hurt, but I don't think he was hurt as bad as he made it look. He goes out and he doesn't play for a few series, and then late in the fourth quarter he comes gimping in and looked like he was on his deathbed.
You know, Walwork and I just sort of looked at each other like, it's on, let's do our thing.
In their version of the drive, the Cowboys embarked from their own 4-yard line with 8 minutes left in the game.
Just started matriculating down the field, no great big long passes, but just a controlled, you know, throw the ball, run the ball.
You get in that zone where everything in your area is going to get caught, and our team was in that zone that day.
Throw a pass to Marcus Harris. He gets the first down, you know, then run a play, run, another fourth down, and hit Harris again.
I watched him catch so many passes those couple of years I watched him play. He was a great receiver. You know, he definitely was one of those guys that in practice we had to know where he was going to be at. He was the key to the offense. We had to figure out how we were going to stop Marcus Harris.
And the amazing thing about it was every soul in the building knew that we would have to go to Marcus to convert a big down, and kept doing it.
You just wanted to pull your hair out. I mean, you wanted to go in there and just knock the kid out. I mean, really, because he was just killing us.
Hey, it's kind of interesting. He didn't score the winning touchdown, but he made about every play there was in that drive leading up to the final touchdown. It was almost like, hey, we ought to lateral it to him or something, let him get in the end zone.
Things happen for a reason, and it just seemed like that was one of those games where things came down to the wire and we stuck together.
Move down the field and get to the point where we have a chance to score here, and it's under a minute, and it looks like, well, we'll probably try a couple shots to the zone, and we ran the ball.
2nd and goal for the Cowboys at the 5. Give it to Brigham. He's got it in. Touchdown, Cowboys!
It meant a lot to me personally because they had beat us my freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. So by my senior year, I was really heated at these guys, and we had to get a win or I was going to find a way to get a medical redshirt.
Wyoming went on to win the division, but lose to BYU in the championship game. In 2007, the Mountain joined the Bronze Boot Series, giving the Pokes and Rams their own featured spot on national television. The 2007 game saw Sonny Lubbock's career as Rams head coach come to a close with an emotional day at Hughes Stadium.
I still vividly remember the pregame speech beforehand. You can tell, even though he hadn't come out and said it was going to be his last game, you could almost tell that, because he knew it, and we really felt as players, like, you know what, we need to go out there. Regardless of what's going to happen with Coach Lubbock, we got to go out there and win this one because you never know.
But to have that be the last game and to win that game, I know it means a lot. It maybe didn't mean a lot then, but I know it means a lot as Sonny looks back at his career at Colorado State to go out against that team winning that game.
And 2008 turned out to be Joe Glenn's final game as head coach of Wyoming. Glenn had won the boot in 2003 and 2006, but saw first-year head coach Steve Fairchild ride 3 touchdowns from Deion Morton to a 31-20 victory in his last stand. For the Rams, the win meant postseason eligibility and an eventual trip to the New Mexico Bowl. And in 2009, Wyoming returned the favor on their rivals that they affectionately call the Sheep. Needing one more win to gain bowl eligibility, the Cowboys and their first-year head coach Dave Christensen headed down to Fort Collins. Trailing in the second half, true freshman quarterback Austin Carter-Samuels became a part of boot lore.
And look at this. Austin Carter-Samuels, 1 rushing touchdown on the day. Make it 2. Touchdown. Austin Carter-Samuels goes 49 yards and ties it at 13.
They made some big plays at the end of the game. Austin Carter-Samuels made the biggest, maybe, to get it in the end zone to win that game.
Ian Watt's 33-yard field goal was the difference. The boys were bowl eligible, and the boot resides in Laramie, at least for one more year. As the Bronze Boot rivalry lives on in what is now its 3rd century, one thing is certain. The border war shows no signs of slowing down.
I hate the Rams. I mean, everybody knows that. But I still, have that adult love for them.
As soon as I came into Fort Collins, they pointed me in a direction where we don't like Wyoming around here. So Wyoming no longer was liked by me.
There's a certain emotion that rises up as soon as I see that green and that ram.
It's nice up there, I guess, scenic, and you can hunt and do all kinds of spectacularly fresh things, but other than that, we're just there for the boot.
You see the pregame footage, there's players who've never even stepped it down, and they're yelling and hollering, and it's a back and forth thing.
It was cold. I remember it was cold, like it normally is in Wyoming in July.
And it's funny playing this green and gold now. For the record, this is Packer green.
I know their uniforms are not the best in the world. I couldn't see myself in a brown jersey and some yellow pants.
Everybody on this team, I can guarantee you, knows exactly when we play CSU this year. They know it. They mark it on their calendar. They know exactly. Yeah, a lot of the other games are important, but that one is the pinnacle of the year right there.